She left me for my best friend, then showed up years later, begging for a second chance. Too bad I've already built a life without her. I'm 30, married now, but this story isn't about my marriage. It's about the woman who nearly ruined my life. Let's call her S. I was with S for 4 years, engaged for 2. She was the kind of woman that everyone said I was lucky to have. Beautiful, charming, always knew what to say in a room full of people. The thing is, everyone saw the surface. No one saw the cracks that I was too blind to pay attention to. I thought I loved her. Hell, I did love her. Or at least I loved who I thought she was. We were supposed to get married, had the date set, the venue booked, invitation sent, and then a week before the wedding, I get a text. Not a call. Not even a face-to-face conversation. Just a fucking text. I can't do this anymore. I'm in love with someone else. I hope you understand. I remember staring at the phone, thinking there had to be more coming. There's no way she just ended our relationship, the wedding, through a damn text message. Right? But nope. That was it. For years together, all boiled down to a couple of sentences. I didn't respond. I couldn't. What do you even say to that? Instead, I just sat there, feeling like my brain was short-circuiting. I couldn't process it. I spent the next couple of days in this weird haze. People kept asking me about the wedding, and I couldn't even form words. My mom kept calling, but I ignored her. I couldn't talk about it, couldn't face it. And then I found out who she left me for. Our mutual friend. The guy I'd invited into our home dozens of times. We'd hung out together, laughed, talked about life. And all that time, behind my back, he was making a move on S. I found out from another friend who thought I should know after the breakup. That broke me in a way I didn't think was possible. Knowing that while I was planning a future, she was planning hers with him. It felt like I'd been gutted. A couple of days after the text, S tried to call me. Left me voicemails full of bullshit apologies, saying she didn't want to hurt me, but she had to follow her heart, and she hoped I'd understand. Understand? Understand what exactly? That I was nothing more than a pit stop on her way to some fantasy life she had with another man? I blocked her after that. I didn't need to hear her lies anymore. For months, I didn't know who I was. I barely ate, couldn't sleep. My friends tried to get me out, get me to move on. But I just couldn't get over the betrayal. Every time I walked into a place, I felt like everyone was staring, whispering, judging. I'd run into people who didn't know yet, and they'd ask, "Hey, how's the wedding planning going?" And I'd have to explain over and over again that it wasn't. That she was gone. That I was just another guy who got played. Eventually, though, I started to heal. Time passed, like it always does. Then, about 2 years later, I met HH was different. No drama, no games. She was the kind of person who you could sit with in silence and still feel understood. We started slow, just hanging out. No pressure. I was cautious, burned from what happened with S, but H wasn't like that. She wasn't flashy or manipulative. She didn't need to be the center of attention all the time. She just was steady and real. After 2 years of dating, I proposed. It wasn't some over-the-top proposal, just us at home eating takeout. She said yes, and I finally felt like my life was back on track. We got married a year later. It was small, intimate, and most importantly, it felt right. But then S showed up. I hadn't heard from her in years. Not a word. I assumed she was off living whatever life she'd chosen with R, and I was happy to leave it all in the past. But one day, out of the blue, I'm in my driveway, washing the car, and a car pulls up. I didn't recognize it at first, but then she got out. She looked exactly the same, perfectly put together, like she always did. But there was something off. She looked desperate. I could see it in her eyes before she even opened her mouth. "I need to talk to you," she said, standing there like she had every right to just waltz back into my life. "What the hell do you want?" I asked, my voice sharper than I expected. She flinched, but kept her cool. "Can we just sit down, please? I made a mistake." I stared at her, trying to figure out if she was serious. "A mistake? What are you talking about?" "I shouldn't have left you. I made the worst decision of my life," she said, her voice breaking as if she was on the verge of tears. "R wasn't who I thought he was. He cheated on me, lied to me. I've been thinking about you, about us, and I realize now, I made a huge mistake. I couldn't help it." I laughed. A cold, bitter laugh that came from a place I thought I'd buried. "You made a mistake?" I repeated, shaking my head. "You left me through a fucking text message, for him. And now, because it didn't work out, you think you can just come back? Like none of it ever happened?" She blinked at me, like she didn't understand why I wasn't thrilled to see her. I didn't know what I wanted then. I was confused. "Confused?" I snapped. "You were confused while you were screwing my friend behind my back?" Her face went pale, but she didn't stop. "I'm trying to make things right. I still love you. Are you out of your mind?" I couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. "I'm married now. I've moved on. You don't get to come back and screw everything up just because your life didn't go the way you wanted." She stepped closer, her eyes wide. "But you don't love her like you loved me. You can't. We had something special. Something real. I know you still feel it." I was so pissed I couldn't even think straight. "You need to leave now." She didn't move. "I'm not leaving until we talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," I said through gritted teeth. "I'm done with you. I was done the moment you left. Go home, S. You're not welcome here." For a moment I thought she might actually throw a punch. Her face twisted into this ugly snarl, and she spat out, "You'll regret this. You'll regret choosing her over me." I stepped back, holding the door open. "Get the fuck out of here before I call the cops." She stormed off, her heels clacking against the driveway, got in her car, and sped off. I stood there for a minute, trying to calm down, my hands shaking from the adrenaline. I thought that was the end of it. But then, a couple of days later, H told me S had called her. "She told me you made a mistake marrying me." H said, her face calm but her hands shaking, that she was the one you were meant to be with. I couldn't believe it. "She called you? What the hell did she say?" H showed me the texts. S had been trying to get into her head, saying all kinds of shit. How I was only with H because I was broken. How I didn't love her the way I loved S. It was insane. That was it. I was done. I went to the police the next day and filed for a restraining order. It wasn't hard, with all the evidence, texts, voicemails, her showing up at my house. The whole thing made me feel sick, like she was trying to tear apart the life I'd built after her. S didn't take it well. She showed up at the house again a week later, screaming on the front porch, telling me she wasn't done with me. The cops came and arrested her for violating the restraining order. She spent a night in jail, and that was the last time I saw her. Since then, it's been quiet. H and I are okay. Stronger, even, after everything. But there's this part of me that's still angry. Not just at S, but at myself for ever letting her have so much control over my life. So yeah, that's my story. People can be selfish as hell, and sometimes it takes them years to show their true colors. But when they do, you have to protect what matters. I did, and I'm not looking back.